the last couple of messages that we've been speaking about, and there's actually been kind of a bit of a theme throughout today, but really emphasized with the Oppenheimer message is, what do you do when you're fighting against something and trying to fight for good? And I want to take you to Luke 9, verses 18 through to 27. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to start from verse 23. Should I give a little bit of context? No, I'll just go straight from there. That's fine. Then he said to them all, which is Jesus, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. And this is the key verse, which is verse 25. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet lose or forfeit his very self? I kind of think about, Oppenheimer like built the A bomb and realized it was being used for evil, and so he's like, well, there's no point, I can continue on and doing this development and probably make more money and probably reach more fame and probably achieve status in the scientific community. But he said, I'll lose myself. I'll lose myself because I don't believe in it. You look at this story from Blindside with Michael Orr, where it's kind of like the opposite side of that, where he's almost losing himself to try to gain money, to try to gain some extra money or some extra fame or whatever it is that he's trying to do now. But he's losing his family. He's losing his reputation. He's losing, so when we're pursuing something, what good is it for a man to go gain the whole world, money, fame, influence, and yet lose or forfeit his very self? Dr. Rod.
Well, I mean, this is a very meaningful passage because Jesus was talking to his disciples not long before his crucifixion. And the idea of carrying the cross took the notion of disciples a lot further than traditionally. Mm-hmm. A disciple would follow a rabbi around, a teacher around, and stick close by them. And Jesus was saying, take up your cross. Well, to take up your cross, it was usually the Roman soldiers would draw someone out of the crowd and force them to carry the beam of the cross. This is the cross that Jesus was talking about. It was actually a reference to dying for Jesus or dying for what you believe in.
Matthew, taking up a cross doesn't mean put your little cross necklace on and
well, no, not really, not that, and it doesn't.
It's picking up a cross and like dying, like the whole
absolutely
reference of the cross is
crucifixion. That's right.
Yeah.
And the reference in Matthew 16, I just wrote this down quickly, Matthew 16, 25 to 26, is a little tiny bit different to the passage in Luke. It says, for whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And of course, we know that ultimately all the disciples but John were executed. John finally died of old age, as far as we know. Then 26 goes on to say, for what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? So this is really about following Jesus, following his principles to death if necessary. It's a pretty serious challenge that is offering. And although none of the examples that we've talked today have died because of their belief, certainly what we're seeing is that people are giving up much of their lives for their cause. Given that time is something that we run out of ultimately, the time that we allocate to fighting any battle is actually using up part of our life here on earth.
Yeah.
And ultimately we're going to die. So what we spend our time on is really important to our eternity, and we need, as leaders, to consider which battles we're going to fight. And once we've picked a battle, we need to consider how much of our resources of time and energy and relationships we're going to actually invest in the battle, because we don't want, as it were, we don't want to gain everything in this earth, but to lose everything by way of reward in the next life.
Yeah.
Our focus ought to be on eternity rather than those things that are temporal.
Yeah, and even making, not to diminish the power of the message of eternity in this, but also like sometimes it's pretty hard for some people to see that far ahead. Let's look at the short term. There's so many people that sacrifice or give up on their morals, or on, make wrong decisions, or whatever for personal gain or private gain, and to gain something in the short term. And like, you hear all these stories of wealthy people that are completely unsatisfied, that they're unfilled, or they have a guilt, or there's something that eats them up inside because they've done wrong by people or whatever. Like, there's like, you're losing yourself. Like, you're losing a bit of yourself every time you do. I kind of believe you're losing a bit of yourself every time you do wrong by someone, or every time you rip someone off, or you treat someone badly, or whatever. Like, if you live your life like that, you're just losing a bit of yourself, a bit of that soul that God put inside of you, and that spirit that God put inside of you, that we're losing ourselves to just for material gain, for personal benefit. And if we're doing that, you're going to lose yourself. And even short term, you're going to be unfulfilled. But one of the things we have you touched on a few times today is understanding your purpose. But when we're fulfilling our purpose and helping out those that are less fortunate, as we've mentioned, and things like that, I believe that that's ways that we gain ourselves, gain that person that God's created us to be, that connection with Christ, that allowing him to live in and through us, because we're doing his calling. And his calling is, yes, we all have our own individual purpose, but also the ultimate calling, like we've spoken about, of just caring for the helpless. What can we do for the helpless and needy? We need to be pursuing that every day when we see someone in need as well. And that's, don't lose yourself. Don't lose yourself, because what is it to gain a few extra followers? What is it to gain a few extra dollars if we're really losing ourselves or losing our relationship with Christ? Hey, you've just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership podcast. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If it challenged your leadership or inspired you in some way, put a comment below. And if you want to watch the full episode or more content like this, check out our channel. And hey, consider subscribing while you're there.